All right. Are we ready?
Yes.
All right. In that case, I'll call the work session into order, and will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Allen.
Present.
Councilmember Hagenow.
Present.
Councilmember Kerr. Here. Councilmember Martin. Councilmember Parmet. Councilmember Sullivan.
Here.
Mayor Riley.
Present.
There are 5 members present.
Thank you. Now we have an opportunity for communication to council to talk about any topics that are on the work session agenda. Is there anyone who would like to speak to council this afternoon? See no one here. Is there anyone online? Thank you. In that case, communications to council is over. And I do see our ailing and sickly chief of police online.
Sorry about that.
And with that, I'll turn it over to our town manager for this first item, which is discussion of Avis Speed.
Okay, so we have been discussing this not formally, but informally as a council for quite a while, the idea of allowing the use of Avis speed cameras, and that's automatic vehicle identification system. It's what Avis stands for. We have an ordinance drafted in compliance with state statute that we will consider at tonight's meeting. We've long talked about Highway 6 corridor safety as one of the primary issues dealing with the town. An Avis speed camera would be one step in controlling the speed on Highway 6. This is far from the final solution. It's simply one tool in the toolbox that we would use if the council approves the use. Now let Councilmember Parmet sit down, just start talking about Avis speed cameras. Okay, currently there are many towns that use Avis speed cameras in the state, including some of our neighboring towns, Vale, Avon, and Glenwood Springs. Slightly informal studies using the data received off of the Avis cameras in Vale and Avon have shown that they actually serve as a pretty serious deterrent in lowering the number of speeders you have driving. As we all know, Avis tickets, there is no implication if you don't pay your ticket. That's our little secret that we won't be advertising very much. But they do issue tickets. Many people do pay them, especially in our town where a lot of the people speeding might have rental cars or issues like that. It costs to get an Avon camera and the AI technology that drives it. It's about $2,000 a month. It's what our neighboring communities are paying. They all use the same 2 vendors for cameras and AI. There's no guarantee that it will be a moneymaker for the town. And I don't think anyone on the town council ever thought of speed enforcement as a moneymaker for the town. Our idea is safety and slowing people down. But it should cost approximately $2,000 a month to use one of these cameras. It uses the same sort of automatic license plate reader technology that we'll discuss in our next item on flock cameras. However, I want to differentiate Avis from flock right here. And that ALPR on Avis is triggered specifically when there's a car that is exceeding the speed limit by 10 miles an hour over whatever the town sets the speed limit at. So the ALPRs on the Avis cameras don't keep a record of the license plates that are driving past unless that car specifically triggers the license plate by breaking the law, by speeding on our roads. Generally, the way the state identifies Avis and is the way we address it in our ordinances, we identify corridors and corridor types where we'll allow Avis. The current ordinance in front of you only designates Highway 6 as the corridor for Avis cameras. If we feel the need to expand to other areas, we'll come back to the council. Highway 6 also has different issues and complications associated with it. We have to coordinate with CDOT and get permission from CDOT. This is something CDOT does as a matter of course. Councilmember Permit?
Refresh my memory, Mr. Manager. Establishing a corridor allows us to have general signage and movement and placement without having to renotice each placement. But if there's a particular residential street that's a problem, all the town has to do is put up notice and signs. Is that accurate?
We have to designate as a corridor as the town council.
If I might add on to that, and this might have been what you were getting at, Aaron, the 30-day notice window, would that be like, let's say we put a temporary camera. I know we've talked about temporary versus permanent, but let's say we put a temporary camera, 30-day notice, warning period, and then we move the camera to X location, 30-day notice, all that kind of stuff. Then we move it back to the original location. Would we have to do the 30-day notice again?
I'm going to ask our attorney on that one.
It's a good question. Let me look at that. I mean, so it requires posting of the sign 300 feet before the beginning of the corridor. So, I mean, I think you're designating the corridor. So you're putting the sign at the beginning of the corridor. And then I believe maybe a sign at the end of the corridor.
That's not.
No, it's just a sign at the beginning of the corridor.
Yeah.
Well, there's a sign before each static camera. So I guess it depends on where those are placed.
I mean, my hypothetical question is not really against static cameras. It's against the ones that we could move from location to location.
Mm-hmm. Mobile.
Yeah, and I don't even know if mobiles, like, I don't know what those cameras, the towed ones, right, where you can just like pop, here's a camera now, here. Would we have to re-warning period that? And if you don't have the answer right now, that's totally fine.
Let me look at that in just a little bit more detail.
Totally.
I would think, and once again, I don't know the law specifically, but as long as you had it the whole time is, hey, photo radar in use or the corridor designated, whether you have it turned on or turned off, probably wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah.
So I think it's more the turning on, turning off once the corridor is designated, but I don't know that too.
I don't think we have to say we turned it off either.
No, that's what I'm saying. So you can just say a photo, and if the camera's not on someplace else, then it's not on. And if you turn it back on, you don't have to re-announce, hey, we turned it.
So you have to post before you use it.
Before you
implement.
Posting record.
Yeah.
One of them is photo radar used, and that's before the entrance to the corridor. And then, or 300 feet before the camera in the corridor. And then you have another requirement to post that you have a camera in use.
Where does the camera and use sign go?
Within 300 feet of the actual camera. I think that's what the two requirements, as I remember reading, at least in the ordinance.
And there isn't anything that specifies that the 30 days for those signs right there, for the signs at the beginning of the corridor and the temporary signs. I know there's a 30 days at some other,
30-day only warning period.
yeah.
And actually reading our ordinance too, I see that CDOT, well, the state considers we have to alert CDOT when an Avis corridor, if it's a CDOT corridor, begins operations or permanently ceases operations. So the state in their statute is considered the idea that operations can be stopped, but not permanently ceased. Otherwise, they wouldn't have called it out that way.
I do have a few other questions, but I know you were mid presentations or anything else you had for us.
Generally, I think right now we're asking, do you want to go ahead with this? It's going to cost, like I said, $2,000 a month approximately for administration and camera operations. The administration is the AI administration.
And I would imagine that if we were to choose to establish a corridor on US 6, that you'd probably want 2 cameras, one in each direction.
Probably.
And is that 2,000 per camera?
Yes.
Still on the cameras.
Oh, go ahead.
I read someplace where that the way they do it is they measure going past the first camera and going past the second camera, which would mean 2 cameras in a single direction. Was that maybe specific to one instance I was looking at? Is that your understanding, that you only need 1 in a single direction or 2?
Yeah, there's 1 camera, but there's 2
2 parts of it.
components to
Got
it, measuring the speed part and then.
Got it, thanks.
I've read that on the
Yeah.
website.
Yes.
I assume we'll have a little cost such as the signage
Yeah,
on the 2,000. That doesn't come with the package.
no, it doesn't.
And then a specific question on, I was looking at, I guess it's the states, and it says something about if a citation is personally served, the defendant may be charged for the cost of the service and process. So is that a common thing that they personally serve?
No, I would imagine that might happen if the camera catches someone going excessive speed. They're all excessive, but a dangerous speed. They're all dangerous.
Particularly speed.
Excessively over the speed limit speed.
And then the last thing, I think I brought this up earlier. Is there a way that I truly believe this is going to impact positively people slowing down? Is there any way that we can do it pre and post? I mean, I'd love to be able to come back in a year and say,
Stats.
gosh, we did drive it down.
In the same way as Avon or Vail did it, and they identified the number of actual citations that their officers issued in the road area past it, with the same kind of level of patrol from 1 year to the.
Let me ask a question. But isn't there signs that, just the signs that says, here's your speed? Do they track the number of vehicles that are speeding, those signs?
Those do not track the number of vehicles that are speeding. This will track the number of vehicles.
Those do not.
I thought,
So
That can't give us a before.
it can give us, even just from the information from that, we can't necessarily get before and after, but we can see how month to month how it impacts. Yeah.
And then it will be a whole new learning experience for our visitors next winter.
You could conceivably place the camera in without issuing any tickets and simply use it as a monitor as your pretest, but then we'd be paying however many thousands a month for a pretest data set.
I thought, and I could have swore at one point you told us that the cameras that are like, here's the speed limit, this is your speed, that gave us an average speed on that road. And that specifically, I think we were talking about Soda Ridge Road, looking at using that data to then drive this decision.
Chief said that, but I thought he was talking about the Avis cameras.
Okay.
Here, okay.
Chief, are you online?
Yeah, I'm online.
Sorry to ask you the question. Ask the question again.
Sorry,
No.
Chief. The camera, or not the cameras, the speed limit signs that have the radar built in and then show you your speed and say like slow down or thank you or whatever their message is. Do those provide analytical data on the average speed past that sign or in that area?
Yeah, there are signs that are available. Like the town of Dillon actually has internal speed limit signs that actually do track that data.
All right, thank you.
To the town manager's point, actually the Avis cameras do that as well. So it depends on what kind of signs that you want to do. If you want to do a pre-study, I would suggest some of those, but that's not saying that CDOT's going to approve them on their roadway.
Amazing, thank you.
So I'd be okay with let's track it over time. Or the first 30 days that they're not being ticketed.
Right.
And then it'll.
Well, we don't even have to have the camera there that first 30 days. It's just a sign telling them it's coming. We could save 2,000.
So can I address the 30 days? So the 30-day requirement is the town has to put on their website notice that they are going to be using these cameras. And then in the first 30 days that they're out, you can only issue warnings in the first 30 days. So there's nothing with signs related to 30 days.
Okay, so we have to publicize it, and during the first 30 days, we can give warnings
Right.
before we execute. Okay.
Yes.
So how does that relate to the moving from corridor to corridor to corridor?
Well, you have your corridors designated and you have signs on the corridor, and then you can move the cameras within that corridor.
And so the two areas you have to do is notice on the website, boom, easy, we can notice that, right?
Yep.
But the actual installation of the temporary camera for those 30 days, do we have to issue warnings for the 30 days that it was first put there? Yes. When you move it, yes. When you come back, do we have to do the second 30-day notice?
No. I mean, I think it's when you just when you start the program.
But are you talking about moving within the corridor or moving to a different corridor?
But to be dead honest,
You're talking about permanent installs.
I do not anticipate, certainly on Highway 6, moving
Get around.
I'm thinking neighborhoods, right? We can
Yeah.
put it on Independence for 2
that's
months. We
what I
can put it
thought.
in Loveland Paso Village for 2 months. We can go to Wild Irishman. Like, I'm just,
Yeah,
and not trying to make the decision for all of us, but that would greatly limit our probably decision if we did have to notice or give 30-day warnings for each of those movements. But it sounds like we don't have to.
Correct.
I had a, sorry.
John, if I could just ask, so it sounds like some of the other towns, do we know how much it's reduced the speeding or so? So right, the benefits of it, because you mentioned several other towns have used it. And
I can't remember the exact number Avon put out, but it was
90 something.
significant.
Yeah. Percent drop.
all right, so definite benefits. Do we know those other towns? Are there any risk to this? Sending out tickets that people really weren't doing it, or any? Is there a downside to this from the safety and community perspective?
The big risk would be what I call the Morrison risk, which is just reputationally, where they issued thousands of tickets to people, and they took a real blow public image wise.
Speed trap.
Yeah.
And wasn't that part of a question of where they set the parameters?
Yeah,
That was pretty low.
They set the parameters, I believe, almost right at the speed.
I wanted to say 2 miles or
but
something.
I think it has to be 10 over,
No, it doesn't.
or it doesn't.
Yeah, I think
But
before you could set whatever it was.
no,
Below 5 above.
the difference is warning versus fine.
Yeah,
Is there a cost to sending out these fines and warnings?
Yes. I assume that,
Is that done by the
Minimal.
program
Yeah.
or is that our staff picking up that?
That's done by the administrative program. I don't know what level of review staff has yet because I haven't gone out to vendors to look into this, but Chief has his hand up.
Chief, go ahead.
Yeah, so a couple of points. It actually depends on the vendor, and clearly there is some latitude of where the limit would be set, which I don't think is necessarily a public function. Anything that we would utilize would be over the posted speed limit, which is illegal. So clearly, when you look at the percentages from the people that have done it, as I noted earlier, some people have done it very well. Some people have done it where, the reputational hit is mostly because early on in the programs, a lot of people were trying to generate revenue. That is not our intent with this program at all.
So Chief, what would your numbers be?
Well, that's,
I don't think-
before he answers, I think what we're saying, I think, is that that probably shouldn't be a public domain.
Right.
Answer.
Typically, so.
No, yeah.
Because there's different things that you can do. It doesn't mean that the cameras are on. It does depend on the vendor as far as cost. The town manager hasn't looked into that because we'll actually be working together. I've already met with one of the vendors that I think is would meet our standard. I think in totality, there's probably two. I think from a planning and strategic standpoint, clearly there would have to be a budget allotment throughout the year. So working in the next couple of months to bring you vendors for review, get a look at what the budget numbers look like going into the budget season, and then really trying to be online most likely around the first of the year to, if we do go down this road and do the 30-day post, because there's a lot of work behind the scenes that need to be done. Obviously, the agreement and stuff with CDOT on the right of ways, and it does depend on the vendor too of who looks at what, who touches what, how the processes go, and the follow-up after the fact of issuance of a citation or warning. So.
Hey, Chief, if you could just comment then, so I'm assuming this also helps out your department, helps manpower issues as well too. If someone doesn't have to just sit there and kind of monitor the speed. I know that's part of what you do, but my assumption is this money that we invest in this frees up an officer to do other things as well. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a force multiplier for sure. And it's in essence, from our standpoint, just keeping people honest. The speeds that we're seeing are incredibly high. That's no secret. So that absolutely is a correct statement of it is a force multiplier because somebody doesn't have to be sitting there 24/7 to get that behavior change. So I think that would be an accurate statement.
Yeah, but Chief, am I also correct that wouldn't mean that you would no longer have, ever have an officer sitting on the side of the road doing speed enforcement?
No, in fact, strategically, officers would be using that as a tool. If they don't have to, depending on how the corridors line out, when that that's covered to that, you would actually move down to Razor Drive or Soda Ridge Road, or, it would increase our footprint fairly drastically.
Excellent.
I'll say one comment. I think that while I understand not publicly posting the limits or talking about it here, I do not want to become a Morrison, right? And so like 2 miles an hour over, whatever that threshold is, I think it would be very bad for us if that happened. Morrison doesn't rely on tourism or the reputation as much as we do. No, they rely on Red Rocks as the reputation, and Morrison is tied to Red Rocks only because we know that, but from an outside person visiting, they don't necessarily know that Red Rocks is Morrison. So that's
I couldn't agree with you more. Because after this program, they no longer have a police department or a chief, so I couldn't agree with you more.
So Chief and I would monitor and make sure if there is an issue.
So a couple fast, that makes sense. Couple fast questions. Truck trailers, who gets the ticket for a truck trailer? And I'm talking semi trucks.
What?
So you go by
Whoever is
this,
licensed.
It's the registered owner.
the registered owner of the trailer or the truck?
Trailer.
Okay. And is there an idea from other communities how the payment of commercial vehicles has been going? Do they just turn the blind eye and say tough? Do they actually pay it?
The first vendor that we met, actually, their rate of return is quite astonishing, because I thought there would be some issues with processing of that, especially with the rental car market. They're saying their rate of return is very high.
Okay, thank you.
And I want to make one thing clear. There are implications for every single one of these tickets. These are a town of Keystone ticket. There just are not implications on a statewide level with most other speeding tickets. So if we have, as you know, many of our trucks are repeat drivers.
Truck company 123 comes by and gets a 75 mile an hour speed limit violation every day.
Yes, well, when they get pulled over by an actual officer too and have to go to court, they're responsible for all of these violations in our municipal court. We just can't issue any sort of statewide implications if they don't pay their.
And we can also, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Attorney, if we have repeat offenders like a trucking company or, well, I'll pick on a trucking company, and they've just amassed a large number of those, we can take them to court civilly and go after the dollars.
And how does that work with due process? Because we're now saying that an electronic device controlled by AI is issuing tickets.
It's not due process in the civil.
It's a civil.
It's civil, not criminal.
Right.
Okay.
But also there might be the opportunity to simply call up that trucking company and say like, hey, we notice you've been speeding a lot and you need to cut that out, or we're going to specifically like make sure we have the enforcement.
But if you're saying these aren't, the secret is that they're not really enforceable, how are we going to enforce that?
Well, they are enforceable. You just.
Fines are enforceable. They don't go against points. They don't go against your driver's license.
What if I show up and say that wasn't me?
So it depends on the vendor that you're using. They mirror pretty much what a municipal court would look like, all the way down to having a hearing with a judge.
I presume it takes a picture as well as, and it's not just of the license plate, so it should show the driver.
They do.
It does.
It's the back though.
Yeah. No, it's the front.
It's the front.
The other thing that you also need to be aware of too is every citation that goes through the system of that still needs to be touched by a person in our office.
Okay.
So it's not just blanket AI, like every single file folder that comes out of a citation of that will still need to be looked at and reviewed by someone in our office.
Stupid question. Do all states have requirements on front and back?
license plates?
No.
So what does that look like if I come from a state that doesn't have front license plate requirements?
You better hope there's not a actual car sitting just past it too. So that's it.
Because I think our officers know pretty well that people
In the front?
will speed up after a speed camera, and well, if you thought that was permission to break the law, then Kale's folks might have a different lesson for them.
John,
Yeah,
does,
the thing I would add, and I apologize, this is probably the least I'll probably talk maybe ever. Apologies for being under the weather today, but speeding's a lot like fishing. Sometimes you get caught and sometimes you don't. But I can guarantee you with a program such as this, people will think twice before they are egregiously speeding through that corridor.
As we said, this is just one tool. None of the tools work completely.
So Carol?
And I think we've clarified that it's not about collecting the citation money. It's about changing behavior. And I already know that Waze has speed cameras noted. So that will change people's behaviors without, anything happening. I have 3 quick, did you want to?
I was just
respond to
going to
that?
kind of respond to truck 123 that speeds every day. Truck 123 very often will be caught behind someone who will slow up because of the camera. So even if they have a propensity, if we can slow traffic as a whole down, it's going to slow down.
I think so. So 3 fairly quick questions. I didn't understand what you said about the administration. Is that part of the package? Does it depend on the vendor? I don't want to get any
It
details.
depends
But,
on the vendor and part of the package, and they'll send a package.
and it goes to the
To us.
police department, and this is an additional, okay. Secondly, the staff report refers to a CDOT speed study that, quote, should support rationale for the program. What study are you referring to? Done a summer ago or so?
It was done a couple Christmases ago.
After we had established ourselves. right?
After we established, well, in the months just before we established ourselves, it was,
Okay.
we discussed it when we first discussed Razor Drive.
Yeah,
So
okay. So that's legit. We don't have to get another one.
I would assume that's enough justification to,
Okay. And the third thing is, what are the other, we've waited so long to launch this, and I know all you're looking for is the guidance to launch it. Excuse me, I am allergic to this place. But 9 months was a little dismaying for the timeline. Is that, Chief, are you recommending that because to get after the holiday traffic, or do you really think it'll take a full 9 months to get this done?
I think.
It really depends on the vendor, their reaction to that, and how long it takes to get the approvals, especially through CDOT, and get it all set up. It is going to take longer than a couple months.
Okay, do we need to get approvals from anyone other than CDOT?
My understanding would be with your approval as a town, CDOT's approval if we're on their right of way. I'm not aware of any other implications or people that we would have to include in that.
Okay, thank you.
CSP has to be notified, as I read.
Do we know any of the vendors, does the camera let you know then, is there some kind of flash or something, once again, that makes that instantaneous feedback?
I
Let you know.
I don't know the answer to that. It does show your speed though, I assume.
Yeah, I mean.
Or you can, no, it doesn't.
Like the photos cameras.
It doesn't show your speed.
It comes in the mail.
Well, I was say, because once again, that's an instantaneous change of behavior. If there's a sign that says photo cameras in use and you get a flash, so and I'm just speaking, Denver has them on their traffic lights. If you run a red light, right, you see the camera flash. Not that it flashes me, but I've seen other cars go through and get flashed. I know a lot of European ones that I've gotten tickets on, I got flashed when I went by the speeding, whatever, it flashed me and I was like, ah. And for the rest of that trip, I was much more aware of what I was.
I am unaware, but it seems like that would be a logical thing for them to have. So when we look at vendors.
Yeah, I would just think, keep that in mind because that's going to be helpful to stop people right then and there, or at least to think twice about it.
Yeah, I think we've asked a bunch of questions.
I do have a few more, and I hope that they're easy.
Let's be brief.
Yes. Contract length terms, do we have any idea of that? Like, would we have to sign a 5-year contract?
We can't sign 5-year contracts.
Okay.
You haven't started.
I mean, we can sign
The vendor.
5-year contracts, but they're only enforceable for up to a year.
To approve it by your budget.
So would we be able to sign a 1-year contract, see if we like it, if we don't like it, if there's issues, if there's negative feedback?
I think
could
many of
review it?
these vendors would allow you to do a 1-year contract because people want to test it out.
Does it get both lanes of traffic or only one lane?
both lines, they told us, I believe.
Okay, because Flock was pretty like on the fence about getting both lanes. So if their system is similar in technology to this one, that'd be a concern.
Yeah.
Okay. That was my two last ones.
All right.
Is that quick?
If it makes you feel better, all that information would be presented with each vendor.
All right, thank you.
I mean, very finite questions, kind of getting in the weeds.
Okay.
It's like right here, we're seeing if we should proceed and
Yeah,
come up
this
with
is policy.
legislation and he should do the research, right?
And a quick, if we wanted to add a corridor later, is that just another resolution?
It's an ordinance.
It's another,
An ordinance, got it.
it's an ordinance amendment.
But that's perfectly fine because we have to notice it anyways.
Yeah,
So
that's, I have my ducks in order.
Can I get a thumbs up or thumbs down whether to go forward?
I would like the same thing that we did for the Flocks, positive, negatives, and like review.
So
Positive.
then, we've gone through the positives. We've gone through the negatives. What additional information would you like me to bring to you?
I'll be specific. There's a town, and I'm blanking the name, but I remember listening to a 9 News article about it. Basically, they're issuing like $240 speed ticket cameras violations. I know that's not what we'd possibly do, but then there was.
I can't answer those
It's
questions.
illegal to do that.
I know.
They did it in contravention to the ordinance they passed. And they had to refund those monies to the people.
Okay, thank you.
$75 is your limit.
Unless you're in a construction zone
Yes.
or a zone.
Not to belabor this, but the only negatives, I've done a lot of, probably not as much as you, John, a lot of research, and the only negatives have been towns where they didn't think it was publicized well enough. So we would want to take a hard look at that when we get there.
But the town that issued the excessive tickets was, well, two things. We're not going for that anyways. We're not looking to make money. And they did it in violation of their ordinance.
And
We're limited by the state, right?
Yeah.
How much to, would you say 75?
Right.
It's actually 40.
40.
75 is for the like a red light camera.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't
The
think I
only
need,
additional penalty would be for the construction zone specifically,
Yeah.
or a school zone.
I don't think we need a thumbs up or thumbs down since it's on the agenda. The ordinance is on the agenda for the council meeting this evening. And then we can have that discussion, further discussion at that point.
Oh,
Let's move on to the next item, which is flock cameras. Mr. Town Manager?
Okay, once again, discussing automatic license plate readers. Flock cameras are very different from the Avis speed cameras in that flock cameras record every. First of all, flock is a specific name brand, as we all know from our last meeting when the flock representatives came to our meeting, zoomed into our meeting and discussed it. So flock cameras, however, do not capture faces and are not supposed to be used for general surveillance. They do surveil every vehicle that goes past and take a data point of the license number, the make, the model, and the vehicle color. Chief and many other police forces feel that flock cameras are a very valuable tool. They've been used for all sorts of issues, stolen vehicles, missing persons, Amber alerts, serious criminal activity like the Utah murders we discussed last time. The issues with flock and the true issue, and I actually, the more I think about it, I put a recommendation in a report on the flock camera. Staff recommends using it, but only if council feels that the privacy issue is a political question. It's not an operational question. And that's the question that's arisen with flock usage, is a privacy issue. Are we going down that road to the police state surveillance of me everywhere I go, everything I do.
Let me interrupt and ask a question. Chief, do you recommend that we install flock cameras?
I do as presented.
All right, thank you.
Question.
Yes.
The costs. I didn't see that.
We had talked about it was like 7,000 to install 2 flock cameras. And then what was it, about another 2,000 a year, Chief, if I recall?
Yeah, initial startup with their bringing their team in to deal with CDOT.
Yeah.
Some of the pre-media that we're going to look at, I believe 7,250 and 2,000 per year follow-up.
7,250 for 2
Yes, to get them installed
and 2K a year after that.
on each.
75 was for both them or for each of them? I want to be.
I thought that was for 2.
I thought it was for 2.
That's the whole package.
Okay, there are alternatives. However, there's widespread use on I-70 of flock cameras. The county uses flock. Breckenridge uses flock. Frisco and Silverthorne are kind of at the same spot we are with flock cameras, that they will, that's the system they're looking at. There are flock cameras in our neighboring counties and jurisdictions, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go over to a different system because it doesn't give the same benefit that we'll have of being able to access Frisco's cameras and Breckenridge's cameras and the county's cameras and vice versa. They'll be able to access ours. We can control who has access to our cameras. Not everyone can access the camera. People outside the jurisdictions allowed can reach out to us and ask to access our data. And given the situation, then I assume our chief would cooperate or say no. For instance, ICE, we have a state law that forbids cooperating with federal agencies on non-criminal investigations. So immigration is a non-criminal investigation. So we couldn't cooperate with ICE if they were just looking for someone. We could cooperate with ICE if they were looking for someone who was suspected of a murder or something like that. That's a whole different situation.
And one of the things that I recall from last time is we can control who gets access to our data, right? So we can choose to share with Councilmember Allen, right? But we can't control who Councilmember Allen shares with, and they would in part get access to our data through Councilmember Allen's access, right?
Well, there's always the opportunity for a bad apple to share information that should not be shared.
I'm not talking about bad apple. Sorry. Let's use a real example.
No,
we share with CSP and CSP all of a sudden gets a
CSP's a bad apple in that situation because they understand that our sharing is limited to CSP. So CSP cannot pass on the exact photo, the data they get. They can verbally pass this information on to someone against the law and against the flock policies.
I distinctly remember when we were talking with Flock that if CSP has a sharing agreement with anyone, they would have access to our data through the sharing agreement.
No, they specifically said they don't have access to our data through the sharing agreement.
Quick question. I read that audit log info can be posted on the town website. What's in that audit log?
It's who has accessed our cameras.
That's what it is. Okay.
Who has accessed our data. So.
Carol.
John, I appreciate the way you framed this. There are two distinct issues. One is giving the law enforcement the tools they need. And two is the public trust that has been harmed under some of the things Flock has done. I was a little disturbed when I asked the question, why are you getting so much bad media when you say that's all true? And they give a vague reference to fake media, which is concerning. However, this is a question for Chief. My understanding is that the cameras that are throughout the county came with through a federal grant that Joe Goose got for us. And there was, I couldn't figure out, it was either 20 or 30. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Why did they not, since the whole thing was, our staff report said that this was part of the quote, I-70 Mountain Corridor Public Safety and Tracking Prevention Project. Why did they not think of putting one where you'd like to put it?
That's a good question. We could ask them
Is there
that
any
question.
opportunity to ask them to consider that?
They're not going to add it because you're a town now.
Say again?
They're not going to look at adding that because you're a town now.
Don't they have them in Breckenridge?
Those are Breckenridge cameras.
Breckenridge has flock cameras
Yes.
that they own and control?
Yes.
Oh, did not. I thought that was part of the system. Okay,
No.
my apologies. So in that case, I understand all this discussion is our data, we own it, we can determine who has access, but I also know that the sheriff's rep who went online into the media when they first got this grant specifically said that the value of the flock cameras is that it links data nationally. So my question is, how can both things be true? That it's a national linkage and that only the people we say can see it?
You can, like I said.
Sounds like a leap of faith.
Well, no, as I said, we can limit who we allow our data, who has access to our data. And if we have a situation like the Utah murders, the jurisdiction in Utah can call us and ask for access to our data, and we can grant access to our data for this particular situation.
Well, Chief, would that be just an access to all data from a certain time frame, or would that be specific to a license plate that they could request it for?
It could be both. It depends on what the situation is. You know, to simplify it quite a lot, you know, we would probably grant access to all Colorado law enforcement agencies,
Right.
Local, you know, and then looking at the CBI factor and state patrol, and that's it.
Okay. And if
you
our
know,
intent is, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
If our intent is to give you the tool you've identified you need, it sounds appropriate. If our secondary intent is to maintain the public trust, I like this list of things that was in the staff report. I was thrown off by the fact that it keeps referring to Silverthorne. So
I got this from.
is this something that they're going to use or they're
Yes.
considering?
Yes.
And I think this kind of specificity
Yep.
is exactly what I would want to see if the council decides we want to go ahead with this.
And I cut this because this is strictly the policies these are policies of flock. These are policies implemented in state law. These are the policies we would follow
But the
ourselves.
specifics are good. 30-day data storage,
Yep.
audit logs, website transparency. So we're not there yet, but those are, I think that may be the best thing we can do for the public trust. And I wish I had a clearer picture. It seems to me that Flock was doing a lot of the things that people are upset about. It seems that once it became public, they backpedaled. And so what we would want to do is stay on top of that, which is an additional task for us, but.
If I can piggyback on that comment, Charles, so I think part of our issue as well too is this is a tool. We talked about with Avis being a preventative thing, right? People know you need to slow down. I'm not sure, other than catching somebody here that has passed through Keystone or helping someone catch, it's going to prevent crime in Keystone.
No,
I don't think it's doing that. I think they're trying to help.
I don't think it's
But let's
Keystone
ask the
specific.
chief the question. I think he has an example where it actually, so they were able to, using Flock, identified bike thieves stole from Keystone and were also, it was a ring and Vale in.
Why should we pay for more clock cameras if it's already?
Just about.
That's what I was going to say, because we didn't have flock cameras and they caught them with that.
But Flock cameras happened to catch them. If they'd come out and gone the other way, probably they may not have.
So they're different tools.
But
So it's an investigative tool that we use. And if you want to talk about public trust and public opinion, this is a tool that we use to actually solve crime. I can give you numerous examples of what that looks like when someone's $10,000 bike gets taken and there's only 2 cars that actually pass through the camera, and then it turns into a $100,000 stolen bike ring. So it's just an investigative tool. You know, we're talking about adding 2 cameras in very strategically to close the loop that didn't get done before as part of a bigger project. You know, we could very easily say no and not do it, but it's going to be harder to investigate certain things. I will tell you that now, and that's not in the best interests of the communities. So that's why I'm asking for the 2. I appreciate everybody's question. There's no doubt that there's been public scrutiny and well-deserved. You know, we're not going down that road whatsoever. Our policies will be posted online in line with all of our policies as they are today, and follow the rules. And it is that valuable of a tool. It is why I say it's different, because unless, you know, somebody that just robbed you or stole your bike or broke into your car is speeding, you know, Avis isn't going to catch those vehicles. This will. And this is just a starting point. All it does is catch the license plate, and that's it. Color, make, and that's it. So,
Yeah.
but you guys are fortunate enough that your police department will investigate every single one of those. And that's a huge thing for the beginning of any kind of investigation. It's a start. That's all.
And in response to Councilmember Allen's comment too, the investigating office at that point in Keystone was the sheriff's department, who had access to these flock cameras in the other jurisdictions. We no longer have access to the flock camera data in the other jurisdictions.
But we could
because
request it, could we not?
No, we couldn't get their data whatsoever. We could ask them to look at
the data
for us
Okay.
and pass on verbal, but we don't have access to flock data unless we are in the flock system.
And I think and John, you and I talked about this offline. I think there's also a risk that we're not identifying when it comes to not just privacy, right? But there's a opportunity, or there's a cost to an interaction with a police department, whether especially if it's wrong. And I can give examples personally that happened to my son. Wrong person, wrong place, wrong time, and it was traumatic for him. And using data to say, hey, there's a bike ring, and maybe getting my son stopped driving through Keystone because he was in that wrong place has an impact. And we have that in Idaho Springs with a dead young man who had an interaction with the police, which was not done properly. So I think there are additional risks besides just someone getting my data or big government using my data.
That's exactly the point, though. There are always risks, and the Idaho Springs had nothing to do with flock cameras. You deal with the risk.
Balancing that risk and benefit.
We allow police to carry guns. We allow police to take liberty away from individuals, and will allow police, if the council decides to use flock camera data. You have to make sure your police are properly trained and follow the proper procedures. And there's always a risk in any sort of police action whatsoever. All we can do is try to make sure our officers are prepared to minimize that risk to the greatest level possible.
A quick question and a comment. I think someplace in the staff report, I couldn't put my finger on, you said, I assume you wrote this, right?
Yeah.
That the town will control the data. Wouldn't that really fall to the police department?
They are at the town.
Okay, you got it.
So no, and if you, as the police department is a department of the council.
Yeah,
They are.
I understand, right? So I'm with you, Ron. I thought, okay, but if we're in a taking care of Keystone, what's good for the people of Keystone? I don't have a lot of confidence that this will pay off for grabbing somebody who commits a crime in Keystone. And I don't want to be happily surprised, but I do think it would be a way to monitor who's coming into our town, that someone who might trigger an alert that's already out there, to give a heads up to the chief. In the end, if we decide to go through this, I think there's enough questions and enough bad perceptions under the bridge that we would have to be very, can't think of the right word.
Careful.
Careful is a good word, not good enough, but it's the same. Thank you very much. We would have to monitor it pretty closely. And I'm hearing from you too, that would be part of it.
We've had a lot of discussion.
Which is good.
Understand. The next step is really a decision that says, do we want to have the staff prepare a draft resolution for our consideration that we can consider in a future council meeting? And the answer, and I'd just like to have either thumbs up or thumbs down
I'm
on
going to do a point of order or information. I never get it straight.
it.
At one point, we had talked about, do we want to look at Motorola? I'm thinking from this conversation, because of the opportunity to link up with other towns and the county, that we do not want to pursue that. Is that?
That's what I'm saying.
Agreed?
Yeah.
Okay, so as you were.
Yeah, so the question is, would we like the staff to prepare a resolution for consideration at a future council meeting to allow flock cameras in Keystone? And the answer is either prepare, and that isn't approving flock cameras, that's just a resolution to allow them that we could consider. And if the answer is yes, the staff will do it. If the answer is no, we're done with the subject. Because it doesn't make sense to continue debate. We've had 3 sessions on this now, so who would like to first have staff prepare a resolution for the use of flock cameras in Keystone? 3. Who would not like to? Who would not like to have the staff make that preparation? 2. 3. Motion failed. Flock cameras will not be used in Keystone. Personally, speaking from a personal standpoint, I will accept the decision of council. I think we've made a grave mistake here. This is a tool our chief has asked us for, and I think we should have honored the request, but I will support the council decision. All right, next item is town hall policy.
And I will let our newly minted deputy town manager, Madeline Sealu, take us through this. First, I do want to point out this is really just use of this. We as a town are going to have to have discussions as we get closer to closing on this building. There are a lot of private companies that rent space in this, and that's a whole different.
topic. Okay.
All right, good afternoon, Town Council. As John said, this is specifically a policy in reference to this community room here and the Downey Library. The attached draft policy designates these two areas as town hall meeting rooms and prescribes a policy for their use. So this policy clearly defines who the eligible users are for the meeting room and designates their function as a limited public forum for activities that are civic, governmental, community-oriented, or educational in nature. What this proposed policy does is gives us clear and objective criteria to use when we're deciding whether or not folks can use the room. This specific policy document does not designate the fees for the room. It indicates that a separate resolution will be passed regarding the fees. So what we're looking for as staff right now is just to identify if this policy meets the needs of the council, or if there's anything else that needs to be included or taken out, and whether or not we should bring this forward at a future meeting.
Questions?
Yep.
The definitions of I appreciate all the items we said, yes, no, these are the kind of people, political organizations. That could be almost anything, right?
Political parties.
Which page are you on?
Where are you at?
Let's see, I don't know what page. I was just looking at what's accepted and what's not.
Page 1 and 2 of the actual policy, proposed policy. Specified, I think it's B.
I guess I would just, what if the GOP of Keystone wants to have a meeting? I mean, that's a nonprofit political organization. I just didn't know where things like that would fall. And then, of course, if you let the Democratic and the GOP group, then there's a whole bunch of others behind that.
It's nonprofit orgs that provide services to Keystone residences. Is that?
Well, what's a service?
Civic or contribute to the civic well-being of the Keystone community.
And then
That begs the question, who decides? I don't think you want to decide all of these.
No, I think one key thing is the services.
It doesn't say that, though. It doesn't say you have to provide services.
No, nonprofits, organizations that provide services to Keystone residents would be how the Keystone Republican or Democratic or Nazi party
That would, take them out?
could access.
Yeah, you could make that argument that they're providing services for the Keystone.
Um,
And then a church.
Let's talk about the political parties for a minute, because it's kind of clear.
Why would we be against that?
My question was going to be very similar to yours, a little bit broader. I think when you're going to look at a new policy, it helps to look at specifics. How would this shape a decision for a political party?
I'm playing
or
devil's
a
advocate.
particular religious group?
Why would we be against the GOP or
We're
Democratic or
not
whatever?
making that decision.
Well, we are, how about the Cowboys or the
Right.
Keystone Nazi Party? That's the point. I don't think we're necessarily against the mainstream political parties using it, but what happens when you get to extremist political parties?
Well, that's where I was going.
That's the point.
Issues like
Because if
this.
you vote for one, you're
Well,
Is this not the example of the Dillon Amphitheater? If you let one church, you would
Right.
well,
every church.
that's where I'm going with this. And I guess it's really, Jennifer, there's been a lot of discussion about this. And is the wording we have here, does that give, how do we use that?
Well, one, you're not going to be able to cover every single situation as to who you want to exclude or don't exclude. You have to define a group of people that you're willing to allow to rent the room to. And then you have to say, we can't discriminate based on viewpoints. So, it does become challenging when there are maybe groups that you don't agree with their view, but you still have to allow access to the space. I will say we are not going to have a perfect policy right now. Probably it might be something that needs to be amended at a later date. But you want to also give your staff the ability on a case-by-case basis to make decisions.
Yes, but I've seen your guidance in the past. Don't rely so heavily on language that's general enough that John is making lots of case by case. So if there were questions, first thing he would do is call the attorney.
Right.
So if a political party of any stripe were to ask, do you think this policy, and I'm not against it, I just wanted to know, would that be allowable by this policy?
Well, I think a political party is likely a nonprofit organization. If they are specifically related to Keystone,
Okay.
then I think the answer is yes.
A voter registration program?
Yeah.
The KNC?
Yes, KNC is definitely allowed.
A voter referendum action group to throw the whole council out?
Yes.
And the Colorado STR Association.
I don't know about that. Colorado STR Association.
It's a statewide organization that just stood up to look after the rights of STR owners.
Maybe not, because in that situation, they're not necessarily focused on Keystone.
But do they provide services to anyone in Keystone?
I mean, I think we can, I wouldn't know the answer to that question without having more detail.
I guess, can I back up? Because when I looked at this, I saw lots of gray. And it's not easy to go black and white. I mean,
Correct.
we saw the church issues last year and, Dylan. Is this one of those things where it's going to be more discretion than it is, defined law, black and white?
I think that likely there are going to be very few situations where John and Maddie are going to say, no, we don't think this person fits. I would say that for the most part, the organizations who are listed on here are the ones that are going to be contacting to ask for space rental. I mean, they know who already is using the facility and who wants to use the facility. I'm aware of the Dillon Amphitheater situation. I will also say I'm aware of other communities who don't ever have an issue with this type of rental.
Do you think that they had, we are talking apples and oranges in the type of facility, right? And so do you think that part of it is, we're talking about a gorgeous amphitheater on the lake.
Right.
And we're talking about
This is not gorgeous?
a space. I feel like the demand for that is probably different than the demand for this, and thus the group's willingness to argue over that is probably different too.
I think in the case of the Dillon Amphitheater, as I remember, that was a case where they wanted to rent to one religious organization and they weren't going to rent to others.
Which is why I think that's relevant here, because if we were to allow the GOP to have a Keystone GOP member organization meeting here, we would need to do that for the Nazi Party if they had Keystone members, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, I'm okay with that. I just want to be clear.
I think if you want to maybe say no political parties.
I think given that in Colorado, we don't even have political affiliations listed on municipal elections,
Right.
it would follow that general state culture to not have political parties, not have partisan use of the facility.
I'm good with that. And actually, I just thought of as we were talking about the Dillon Amphitheater. The real issue there was that one church used it 52 weeks a year.
Mhm.
And I think if we put a limit on how many times an outside organization can use the building a year.
I think the issue is not that an outside organization would use it 52 weeks a year, if that there's demand for another organization to use it, and it could be seen as we were giving preferential treatment.
Well, no, I could absolutely see a church booking this room a new Sundays a year. Absolutely.
Yeah, and who cares? As long as Church of John doesn't want to do it at the same time, then we each have to do 27 days.
But what happens if what if there's 51 other churches? And you say, well, you let them use it one day and each of us should get to use it a day too. It's fair.
I do think a factor in here would be the fees that we would have to levy on this, because if you're going to use this as a church space after hours, then somebody's going to have to pick up the fee for our staff.
Well,
right?
and yeah, then the fees, please correct me if I'm wrong, were called out, and we're going to do a separate ordinance to set this
Resolution, yeah.
resolution. Thank you.
So, I'm sorry, Jennifer, back to you. I assume this isn't new for cities, for towns. And I assume a lot of towns have this kind of an ordinance in place for the use of their, and so maybe we are just too gun shy because of what we've seen with our neighbor.
I think that that's true. Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned, I have not heard of any situation or not been aware of a political situation where somebody wanted to use a room and it wasn't, it was a group that the town did not want them to use it. I mean, this is common, and I haven't seen many.
So it's a reasonable risk.
Yeah.
To take one.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be very specific, don't give staff any discretion. This policy is going to be 30 pages long. It's going to be unwieldy.
And we'll still have the first person who wants to use it be someone that wasn't.
Right. So I appreciate your optimism. Completely unlike an attorney. But I like to worst case things, and I'll tell you, all these examples we've talked about, as a former wordsmith, I could make a very strong argument that you should let me in. So I think this is not very limiting. I'm okay with that, because I think we should get fees to cover our expenses for sure.
For sure.
Question? Oh, sorry.
So is there another town that has one that's kind of, so was this taken from another town, basically? What I'm asking is, I don't want to reinvent the wheel if we don't have to. Someone has kind of solved this to the 90% solution, if we can get that, and if that's what this is, perfect. And then the second is, follow on to that, is if there's a way to give the town discretion, or to give you guys some top cover, meaning that if you are going to deny, there's some kind of appeals process that comes to us. It lays the burden back with the town council, right? Any group that would be denied because of whatever can appeal that decision to the town council. Does that help you? Does that hurt your cause?
That hurts our cause, because if someone comes and there's a question, what happens is the attorney weighs in and we make a legal decision on whether they can be excluded or not. And if we exclude someone based on our policy and they appeal it and the town council says, regardless of our policy and our legal ability to exclude them, we're letting them use it, then the next person we exclude because of the policy will have an argument about equal protection, because the town councils decided that the policy didn't apply on the other organization.
And it also becomes much more political then,
Yeah.
too. I mean, if it's a town council decision, it's not exactly like a policy from another community, but yes, it is modeled after another community's policy.
So one thing that I had a question on is other governmental usage, specifically like we'll just use Dylan as the example, right? Dylan wants to do a retreat offsite and use our space for this. I struggle to see them fitting under any of these. And so Summit County government and other local government entities are organizations of which the town of Keystone is a member or formal participant.
There should have been a comma after other local government entities.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Notice.
Okay, so that then answers my question and covers. Thank you.
Other questions, Carol?
So that's so much a question. I have some scars from political parties wanting to use the backdrop of a federal installation that I was at. And it was a little bit ugly. So I just want to be upfront and that's where I'm coming from. But since both Dan and I asked that question and Aaron proposed this concept that municipal governments are apolitical.
Nonpartisan.
Pardon, nonpartisan, correct, that's better. Do we want to, what's the general sense of whether we'd like to entertain specifying not political parties?
I'm okay with it as is. I think it's a different conversation if we do get a backdrop that could be viewed and associated with Keystone more easily or more like a federal
So that might be a
institution.
specific
Yeah.
addendum
Down
about
the-
using our branding.
Yeah.
Aaron, what do you think? Are you good with that?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure we had an opportunity to consider that.
Are we okay with?
Yep.
So I'd ask you to go ahead and.
Can I ask the council, how do you feel about limiting the number of days in a particular organization? I think that's a very strong point because I think we're not going to charge more than it would cost the church to buy a building, no matter what, and operate a building.
True.
If I ran a church and the town started accepting them, the first thing I would do would be book this room for 52 straight weeks.
So if you were trying to book it for every Wednesday evening from 6 to 9, as a town staff, would you have to have somebody here to come in and make sure it was locked up afterwards, or would that be part of the contract?
Yeah.
Yes. I gave you two choices and you said yes.
Well, no, someone would
We
have
can
to
install a security system.
obtain.
They had a one-time access. They had an access card to come in and go out.
So the question you're bringing up is, should we have a quantity, a time limit? Like an HOA wants to have their monthly meeting here. That's 12 times a year.
And that's probably 12 is acceptable to me, because it eliminates someone booking the room every single.
If this was not borrowed in full, but borrowed in part from another community, why wasn't that put in there? Do we see other, and I know this is like one example, but do we see other communities putting that in there, or would we be one of the only ones?
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, but I would guess Dylan's attorney who quit strongly recommended something like that in their policy.
She went over the issue that they were only renting to one and they wouldn't rent to anyone else.
And they held the line and didn't
And they
make
held
the
the line.
recommendation.
So that
She
was
said, you don't need me that
That
way.
was a
Yeah.
freedom of religion issue.
But the issue then comes up. It's,
I'm comfortable with as is. I mean, I think that if it becomes an issue, we can readdress it.
I
We need to
very
address it
much,
before.
I would very much prefer that we had a limit on.
Yeah, because otherwise it looks like, oh,
It's
we're
once a
hesitant
month.
about you. We're going to have
Once a month is perfectly acceptable, I think.
Is that too often?
I don't think so.
Well, what about I'm thinking about recurring meetings, right? AA, NA, somebody wants to do an AA meeting here every week, Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. Is that really an issue? Church wants to do a meeting here, 10 a.m. every Sunday. Is that really an issue?
Yeah, because if you book every Sunday, every church wants to do a meeting on Sunday. That becomes the issue. And to tell the truth, every Tuesday AA becomes an issue because it really cuts off the use for other organizations. We want this to be as open as possible to those organizations that have a positive impact on Keystone.
Isn't the purpose we're trying to extend an option for these organizations to occasionally benefit the community, not supplant their need to have a regular use building that they ought to have a lease on. Like, we're not trying to fill in a hole in their business plan.
Correct. I support this language, realize we have to draw it up. And I would also say once a month, 12.
Can I just make a suggestion? What if you did it 12 times a year? Because I can think of a situation where you would have a group that is getting together for a limited time and maybe wants to meet weekly.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's a great, yes, and
I'm in my thought.
To
It's a sign of the town.
And let me, before we bring this up, I'll do a little more research into what's probably a proper.
The number rather than just one.
And the language.
just one more thought, like, I think your point is great, but we might still want like a limit of times per week, so we don't have someone deciding that they're going to book like a 12-day straight conference or something.
That's true.
Yes.
We can figure out,
Yeah, you can figure that out.
do that.
You have enough guidance then?
Shouldn't be a big decision, but
Well, we're all gun shy.
at the
right
same
now.
time, we should learn from others. So
Yes, we're all like hypothetical, what happens in it?
that was not even hypothetical.
And we can't legislate everything. We can try. All right. Next item is the Business Advisory Committee update.
And we'll let Maddie take this one too.
All right, so last fall, the town council appointed and set the terms for the Business Advisory Board. They're looking to start meeting this April. And we're looking for direction from town council if there are additional items to be reviewed by the Business Advisory Board. The two things that we've got on the agenda right now to discuss in April are the discussion of a fall marketing campaign that's being pursued by the town's Marketing Advisory Board. The Business Advisory Board would be weighing in on this campaign from the perspective of the business community and what they might be looking for from that. And then how can the town support the business community in Keystone? So we'd be looking for directions on other matters to consider. And additionally, on the evening meeting tonight, we did receive a compelling application from another member who would be interested in serving on the Business Advisory Board who missed the initial application window. Based on her range of experience with businesses across the community, serving as the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce, we believe it would be beneficial to appoint her as an additional member to the advisory board. So if town council would like to move forward with that appointment, the resolution has been placed on the evening meeting agenda. And if you would not like to move forward with that, you could just remove it from the agenda.
And consider it at that point.
Yes.
Consider it at that point.
Now, let me weigh in a little bit on this. We have several advisory committees. And it's very important that you as a town council do not let our committees dictate council's agenda. Council needs to dictate our advisory committees' agendas. And that's why we're asking, where do you want to see the Business Advisory Committee focused first? We'll be having discussions about open space and trails, SDR, all the other committees in the future, getting input from the council on what do you want this committee to look at?
Yeah, I would think one other thing, and it's more ad hoc than specific, two questions that's being looked at, addressed here, is that as the council is considering future ordinances that potentially could impact businesses, I think I would like the advisory committee's input on those ordinances.
You mean ones that were already on the table?
No.
Or just
Future.
tell them that we are going to pulse them in the future? Good, cool.
Dan?
Yeah, how do you suggest, John, you were asking about for us to give them guidance? What would be
Well,
suggested process.
this right here.
Yeah.
This is the process. What do you want the Business Advisory Committee to be working on? When we form committees, these are people who are giving up their free time, just like you, to serve the community. And it's important that they not be wasting their time,
Right.
that they not be considering issues that you have no interest in whatsoever. Nothing discourages a volunteer more than putting a lot of time and effort into something and having nothing come of that. So it's important that they be given direction from you, the council, who will actually institute the actions that they recommend or not.
I mean, an example, I'm just going to give you an example. I think one of the things we talked a lot about is the shoulder seasons, and that generally we believe everybody benefits if we can improve those. I would see that as something that I would hope that this committee would come up with ideas and create creative ideas that would then bring them to the council. I mean, if that's one of the things we want them to work on, as a council, do we say, here's the 3 or 4 things, that's one of them, and then we communicate that to.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great one. That's a great question. Not just how can the town support the business community in Keystone in the general sense, but also the second question specifically, how can we help you on the shoulder seasons? And I think that's exactly the type of input we're looking for tonight to take to them. So
The reason why I ask is because I feel like I want to do a little more due diligence and think at the top of my head, oh, here's 2 or 3 things go off. You know, I think it's the council does need to think about this for a while. I mean, and maybe you could do that at a work session, but I'm just.
As items come up, as with all committees, we have a portion on the work session agendas, and we have a portion on the council agendas, other business, that any council member can bring up a subject and say, hey, I believe the Business Advisory Committee or the Marketing Committee or the Trails and Open Space Committee ought to be, I would like to have input from them on the following. And then the council as a whole can make a decision whether or not we want to go forward.
Let me throw out another one, because I think that the business community would like to see enhanced postal services. How can they help us do that? But I'd like to understand, is that a challenge for them? Is that a big deal or not? I'd like to know.
yeah, these are perfect examples of the direction we as staff need so that we can pass them on to the community.
I would agree with both those items to pass on to the committee.
Yes.
Throw that out there.
Carol.
I propose that you ask the question whether they would be willing or interested in partnering with us on future town-sponsored events. An example would be the NRO concert at Lakeside. Do they see any opportunity by which they could leverage that if we work together in the planning? Is there opportunity for the businesses writ large to benefit, to partner with us for the 4th of July? So those are just 2 specific examples. But the question is, they might not answer the question now, but I think what we want to do is plant the seed that this is an opportunity. This is something that happens in other towns, and we're pulsing their appetite now, and we'll probably come back and keep doing it. Very wordy, but good job.
If I could add on to that too, because that was one of my bullets, is beyond, I know sometimes partnerships viewed as like, just give me money, pay for the NRO thing. I think it'd be awesome. I'm saying that's what it's sometimes viewed as, right, by people. But I would like to see, and part of the ask being like, can we get a food truck to the NRO show? Can we get a local restaurant to come in and somehow be activated? Can we get the Keystone Science School to come and give us scientific lessons? I don't know. I don't know the ideas what the people in the businesses would know best, right? But more than just partnership in the sense of paying for things, but partnership in being present, active, and involved in said events.
You read my mind. I like that. And I wish you would run with that. I mean, it could be something, we could give them the opportunity to come and put flyers out or advertise their event. There are lots of ways we can mutually benefit each other. You're laughing.
And no, because interestingly, staff had this discussion on our 4th of July,
Okay.
and we've invited the Keystone Science Center
To give a scientific lesson.
to come have a presence at our 4th of July.
Yeah.
And actually the fire departments put out just brochures and stuff on.
Right.
So what you need from us today, I guess.
What you're doing, which is,
We're asking us to brainstorm ideas to bring up to the business board to
And
consider.
this is just a start.
I have two additional ideas that I jotted down. How does the STR community support or impact the business community? And then second, for summer season specifically, would the resort being open 7 days a week support your business?
So you're looking for data. Excellent.
Folks, we already know the answer to that one.
Do we?
Yeah, I've talked to most of the businesses, particularly in River Run.
But this way,
There might be an
in a way we can
opportunity.
use it.
No, I'm not
Yeah.
saying don't do it. I'm just saying, we know the answer, the businesses will give us the answer.
Right, but yes, I agree with you. And the answer could come in the form of like a letter or a resolution from the advisory committee saying, this is how the businesses generally feel.
And it could also, like, I don't personally think it'd go this way, right? But it could be, no, we actually like to have 2 days off so we can give our staff time off. I'm just saying it could.
so I think that the question here is small business and resort synergy.
Right.
How do the businesses see the local business and resort synergy, and how can we improve that?
Well, also, what does the STR community have for the business community impact, positive, negative,
Yeah.
either way?
In the very earliest days of personal computers, we would go into these small shops that no longer exist. And I'd stand there, like overwhelmed. And a salesperson would come up and say, what do you want to use a PC for? And I said, I don't know. What can I use it for? So I think that hump is what we got to get over here. We're going to ask them what you need, and they're going to say, well, I don't know what you can do. So when you put specifics on the table, I think we can learn to understand each other better. We have certain assumptions, and we'll test them.
It sounds like we have enough to start this with. This is going to be a growing, this is growth as we're starting. And I would just as soon not overwhelm them initially. Also recognize that we have 10 members of the advisory committee. Probably half of them are business owners in Keystone, half are not. And so as we grow this, part of this will be to get that business advisory committee to get out and talk to their compatriot businesses so we can start getting the sense from the entire business community of what is needed in Keystone and to answer our specific questions.
Question, is A Basin on the committee?
You do not currently have a
They
representative.
didn't volunteer.
A Basin is
But
on
they
the,
are on the marketing.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
yeah, we
The second part of the question, I believe, was the appointment of an additional member.
We'll cover that at the council meeting.
well,
It's a resolution on the council meeting agenda anyway, so why not just address it as part of that?
well, it is on the workshop agenda. So can I ask, I know we are very specific that we were open to people who didn't necessarily have businesses in town, but had business experience. And she certainly meets that criteria. Do we require a connection with Keystone when we pass this business board?
There are businesses in Keystone that are part of the chamber of commerce, so.
There's a couple.
Okay, so a little bit of a stretch, but you're talking the fact that she has a relationship with other businesses in town. I'm okay with that. I just don't make a decision that we've already made.
But I think one thing I want to circle back around on is what the mayor said. And this goes for all our committees. We're not going to have workshops like this in the future on the committees. What we are expecting is the council, if there is a particular something we're discussing in workshop, say, I really would like to hear the opinion of Open Space and Trails Committee on this. Or if it's not even something we're discussing, but you want to know if it's something we should be discussing at other businesses, say, you know, I would like to ask the Business Advisory Committee to weigh in on, let us know if they think we should address this issue.
The bear proof ordinance, we could just have been like, ask them their opinion, they'll give us the opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Because that's a very good example because it impacted businesses.
Okay. Do we need anything else on this?
I think he has all the guidance he needs. Next item is summer events.
Okay, this is not so much a discussion as kind of a review. Although I clearly did not highlight our Opry with Keystone Town Council as one of our first events. Clearly a town-sponsored event. We wanted to show you, kind of put in calendar form, the big events that are generally KNC driven, along with the places that the town is stepping up to share, to present, to offer more opportunities to the town of Keystone. One of them, as I said, our Opry, clearly a town event coming here this Friday from 5 to 7 p.m. Everyone, please come out to the Sake House in River Run to have Opry with Town Council.
And I do want to point out, this is not a Vail Resorts KNC event.
This is not. This is a town of Keystone only. Couple other, we have our cleanup day coming March 30th, obviously closing weekend, May 30th. Good God.
You could use it now already.
I know, it's, and
It was Freudian or not.
it was completely Freudian, but, and closing weekend coming up April 4th and 5th. We've agreed to do 5 NRO events this year at Quaking Aspen in conjunction with KNC. And we are splitting the cost of those events with KNC. There is a separate event we have scheduled Friday, July 31st, NRO in Lakeside Village. At this point for this year, we just have one of those events scheduled at Lakeside Village as we're trying to figure out the logistics. It's a whole different story.
Test the waters, right?
In the event ourselves as opposed to KNC, who has done the event before. We're coordinating with the Vail Resorts Conference services because they control the Lakeside Village areas. So at least we have one thing scheduled at Lakeside. Well, 2 things scheduled at Lakeside Village, if you count our very exciting Keystone Old Fashioned 4th of July, which is really coming along well. We've got.
That's going to be at Lakeside?
That's Decatur Fields.
Okay.
So, and
Where? Moose Field.
we've booked the inflatable bounce house play areas. We've booked the cotton candy and the popcorn machines. The band is almost lined up. As we said, we've reached out to other Keystone Science School, the fire departments. Hopefully we can get a fire truck down there. We don't know. 4th of July is
They might have things to do.
They might have things to do.
If you're doing a dunk tank, Ken did tell me he was volunteering to do the whole 3
I think
hours.
that's the whole reason.
Yeah. We're going to have, we've ordered 50 aluminum foil pie tins for our pie eating contest. They will simply be whipped cream. We don't need the liability of someone trying to choke down a piece of crust.
We have a budget for this.
Yes, it's actually very affordable. And it's our.
You threw me off with the band.
No, it's just a local guy. We're not big noise, expensive band here.
Do you think we could get this with a few edits, right, to show that like the celebrations at Decatur Field, and just like some minor edits, but can we get this out to the STR community so they could pass on to their tenants? And can we ask KNC to get this out? Can we publish this? Because like, I know ChatGPT probably did a really nice job formatting some of this, but it would be nice if we can get that consolidated out to the broader.
Absolutely. And KNC has already stepped up and are pushing our 4th of July. So
Well, not only the 4th of July, right? I mean, this
everything.
would be nice to literally just print out and put them on the refrigerator so we can be like, what's happening today?
Yep, absolutely. We can do that. And we'll post it on our website and send it out to.
At last meeting, you talked about a drone show.
That's part, KNC is doing that on July 3rd.
In the evening, right?
Yeah, so we should put that on this list too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have KNC 4th of July celebration, so that's on there.
But you clarify drone show. People will say, oh, that's different.
And drone show is going to cause people to come in. A celebration, that could be a band.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Basically, this tonight was just to kind of show you that we have heard you about trying to activate Lakeside Village. And we have things, we are starting to act like a town as far as town events and
Things, yeah.
And I think the guidance that I heard was, we'd like you to put this, clean this up a little bit, put this together as things happening in Keystone. And then get that out to publicize that out through KNC Marketing Committee and also through other avenues as well that you.
KOA.
Yeah, KOA.
Their HOA.
HOA, let the STR companies know about it as well so that they can be able to take advantage of these things.
And this might be a contentious ask or suggestion for this. But again, I think we should look at, well, not again, but I think we should look at beyond like this is all awesome events, but like, do we know a resort opening date? Pop that on there. Do we know any other activations, comedy nights, things like that they're doing at Warren Station? And just with the kind of mindset of, if I was coming into town for the first time, or even if I've been here for 20 years, right? What can I do this summer?
Right.
we'll double check.
I know they have bicycle races or bike downhill events.
Yeah, like tournaments almost.
Yeah, we'll double check other, I'll call them resort events.
Foundation. Yeah. We can build that.
The opening of the mountain for bikes.
Yeah.
The opening of the chairlift for chairlift rides.
Golf course opening.
Golf course.
The activity center at the lake, we can sort of paddle, so you can go now, I bet. But.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll look into all that and add those and distribute this. That's a very good idea.
I'm excited.
Good.
We've got some time. Want me to do a manager's report right now?
Oh, we have financial.
Oh, financials.
Thought I referred to.
Yep. Sorry.
We had time.
This is what happens when we need to start making sure our webpage agenda matches our agenda. I go on our webpage.
So this is not accounts payable now. This is the financials
Yes.
report from Heike, right?
Yes, so
Okay.
I will let Heike take this.
All right, Heike Fox, Finance Director. So this is kind of it's a big one. I'm sure you guys are asleep, but we have our revenues. We have our unaudited final December 2025 financials. And then we also have our February financials in this packet. The audit is going on right now, but our year-end financials for 2025 were quite impressive for the second year that Keystone was up and running. We did exceed revenue expectations, and our expenditures came in under budget. We didn't get to quite all the things that we had planned for, but with all that being said, we're ending the year with a general fund balance of 1.71 million. That's the surplus that we had for the year. And then that adds to our total fund balance, which increases it to 3.65 million. So end of the year quite good, and whatever revenue shortfalls that we might expect for this year, we'll have a nice little buffer there. I know you all probably have lots of questions, so.
Any questions?
Hi, Keith. For our expenditures, we're 139% of budget for road maintenance. Were any of those overages due to accidents from vehicles into those things? Specifically, I'm thinking about one of the bridges in Independence, and I don't believe that was repaired in CY25. And what I'm trying to get at with this is, are any of those expenditures going to be offset by revenue collected from accidents?
No, that'll be coming up in this year's.
But the question was, will we get insurance proceeds to pay for the bridge repair?
We are assuming so.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I remember you mentioning that before, but of this 139% overage.
That was mainly we spent more than we budgeted for the sidewalk. That was the main.
I figured it was that. I just wanted to double check. Thank you.
Sure.
On the 2025 budget, there's a comment about, under that part about variances, about a discontinued software, that STR software that did not meet expectations. Which is that?
That was the question.
That was Deckard software.
Oh, we have already discontinued it?
You're not paying for their services right now. They are still providing services until they are able to provide the services that are actually requested in the contract. We're not paying for them.
Okay. Good answer. I have 4 questions if anybody wants to interrupt me. How are we billed for animal control? Is that a flat rate per month, or is that we had 5 dogs here this month and here's your bill?
The animal control is part of our Summit County Sheriff's agreement,
which is continued.
That ended in May. And now we're fully just on the Dillon Keystone Police Department.
Which does not include animals.
It does not break it out.
So I'm confused.
Yeah, I am too. First of all, it's flat. It's not.
It is flat. Okay, that's good to know.
And I believe it's a one-time fee for the year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Because originally it was into the sheriff. The contract we had with sheriff.
No.
It's not a service that Dillon Keystone offers, right? So we pay animal separately.
But still through the Dillon Keystone.
Okay. Will that go up next year when we're paying for the full year? This year?
It should be just part of their whole budget. They just don't break it out.
Okay. 3, snow removal is over budget by 14,000. Isn't this a flat fee per month for all those vendors as well? I don't understand how we could be surprised. Don't we contract during the fall?
We added roads that we are plowing this year. So we budgeted based on what we did. Our 2025 budget was based on 2024, but then we added some additional roads like North Fork.
So if it had been an actual snow year, we would have been screwed on.
No, these are
We're
flat.
good to go, either
They're
way.
flat,
They made out this year.
but our flat numbers
Okay.
went up this fall because we picked up additional roads that we hadn't budgeted for.
Okay.
Yeah.
And will that be again, we'll pick up more next year?
Well, if we pick up more roads over the course of the year that aren't, yes, it will probably.
And does the
be-
2026 budget
The
Whatever, all the
2026 budget
additions we made last
includes
year?
everything we made
Okay.
last year.
Okay,
Yeah, well, the 2026 budget will be based on the contracts that we have, with the additions of the roads, will be over budget about 20,000 for what we had budgeted.
Yeah, some of these contracts were entered into late.
Right, so, because the budget kind of happened before all the contracts were solidified,
so
so.
that'll roll into the supplemental,
No.
or maybe we have enough? Okay,
Yeah.
fourth question.
Carol,
That-
can I'm so sorry. For the
Yes.
snow removal, I don't believe I ever heard an answer on if it's a flat fee or per.
Flat.
install. Okay, thank you.
He did. The 2026 year to date, notes a $10,000 expenditure for the community support grant program under the council. I thought that the community support grant program was starting this fall. So what did we expend 10,000 for in this calendar year already?
That's for the treetop.
Yeah, it starts this fall. We are operating under the rules we operated under last year. For this, it's a very complicated situation trying to roll the way the nicotine dollars, which are traditionally spent by all the communities in the county to support Treetop, Elevated, FERC, and Building Hope, are now going to be rolled into starting this fall. So in 2027 disbursement year, it will be a different situation.
We won't have a specific, but we never had a specific decision this year. We decided last year to give 10,000 to Treetop. When did we decide to give it this year? Would that be a resolution if we were expending money? So no. So what did we base that decision on? That how were you
We
authorized?
budgeted, because we budgeted these monies.
I think we spelled out Treetop anywhere in the current budget.
You don't have to.
We didn't have.
But it's under the council's community support grant program, shouldn't?
Which is
That would be our
which is nicotine dollars.
I don't think Carol's point is that the dollars are the issue,
Yeah.
it's that the expenditure is the issue.
Yeah, we never made that decision.
Well, when we signed the nicotine IGA, we did.
And that shouldn't be under the town council.
Well, it is,
Which
because
is-
that's where the nicotine IGA monies are distributed.
No, there's a whole category of nicotine monies.
Okay.
Shouldn't it come out of that?
Yeah, Smoking cessation, that is based on the Summit County's budget for their expenditures that they bill us for. And then there's a little bit left over between our revenues and their expenditures.
Well, there's 60% of the nicotine. The cessation it takes like 40% of the dollars automatically. And then the other funds have to go to these specific,
Have to?
yes.
So shouldn't it come out of that nicotine fund as opposed to out of the council's fund?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. If you're saying this is part of an IGA, it's part of the nicotine expenditures and,
It's a strange year because.
but do you get my
Yeah,
point?
I totally get
So
you.
let's not do that next year?
Yeah.
No, but no, we can reallocate the dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
And I believe, I agree with Carol. I
Yeah.
believe the treetop dollars should have come out of nicotine funds,
Yep.
which are fence dollars. And
Yeah.
if we don't spend them, they just continue to build.
Yeah. So is that feasible to make that?
Yes.
I like your attitude, Heidi. And those are all my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. So did that also address any questions folks had on 26 as well so far? Sorry.
I was going to
Need to talk. Yeah.
talk about this a little bit in our meeting, but this is a much better point to talk about it. We've received our February lodging tax, and it is down 15% year over year. That's what, approximately 70,000?
No, it's, it's a second.
The real point is we're anticipating then that February sales tax, lodging tax wouldn't be 70. If February sales tax is down 15%, that's 70 to 80%. I don't think March, or 70 to $80,000. I don't think March is going to be any better than February. We're still, lodging across the state was down almost 20% in February, so we're still doing better than others, but we're in a situation here where we are seeing a definite decrease in our sales tax dollars. Given our surplus in the general fund that we've budgeted and our original general fund starting value of over $3 million, I don't anticipate that the town will in any way have to back off any of our budgeted projects, planned projects we have for this coming year. We're still going to be in very good financial shape at the end of the year, even if we continue to be 15% down every single month.
I remember this conversation roughly happening 5-6 months ago at this point, right? I forget the exact date, but you had a basic like 3 options, like an oh crap, oh crap, and the worst case scenario. Can you do that again for maybe next meeting or something, just so we can have, like, if it really hit the fan and the worst case scenario happened, like, are we talking about having to lay off people? Are we talking about like not having a police department? Like, what is the possible impact if it continues down this even into next year?
If we completely lose all revenue this year, we will still have a positive fund balance at the end, doing everything that we've planned.
Does the finance scale say yes to that?
What about 2027?
Wow.
If we completely lose all revenue for the end of this year, there are going to be some real serious questions going forth into 2027 about
those conversations.
And to be fair, that might happen.
Well, no, I mean, I said if we lost all revenue, if no one comes to Keystone, we have a lot bigger problem than how we're paying staff in 2027.
True, but I like your thought process because we are okay now. It looks like we will be. But I look at, we probably need to keep an eye on Epic Pass sales, because this is during these terrible snow conditions is when people are making decisions about whether they're going to invest in that season pass. And if they don't, we will not have November, December visitorship.
There was a Vail Daily article that talked about this, and it was basically like the impacts to revenue are not going to be realized in this year because most of the people that booked them have 7+ days at least for a cancellation policy. It's really going to be this next year when we feel it. And by year, I mean by season.
Yeah. But you know that. I just wanted to say it out loud.
Yeah, and I disagree because the impacts are being felt this year.
Yes, yes.
And that 7-day cancellation period is when you had no snow all year, that was not causing problems with cancellations. I understand. Yeah. But, you know, they were canceling plenty of time in advance.
There are a lot of people here this last week and this week. It's
but not for a typical spring break.
True.
But if we're down like this
in the summer,
every month, what that's going to do is eat up our planned budget surplus.
Yep.
It won't even touch into our fund balance at that point.
Okay.
Because our fund balance at the end of the year was projected to be above. That being said, there are things we've budgeted, things we're planning that we might wait a little bit before we jump in and get it. The town truck issues like that, there's a lot of wiggle room in the budget still. I definitely still plan on going forward with our bus stops, with some of our major road repairs, mill overlays. In fact, actually talking about partnership with the resort, with the resort maybe next week, maybe this Thursday, to discuss sharing the cost of repairing the Tennis Club Road intersection.
Excellent.
So
In the end,
yeah,
these are promises we've made to the community. The community doesn't care whether you get a truck or not. So I appreciate the way you laid out the fact that you have some options, and I think that's wise.
yeah, I just wanted to point out we had a bad month. We had a good January, which actually was quite surprising. I'm expecting March to be bad. I'm expecting our summer to be good because bookings are up, because people who didn't come up from Denver this winter realized they didn't come up because it was too hot up here for good skiing. And they are smart enough to realize that means it's going to be really hot in Denver this summer. And people are starting to make sure they can get away and get up here. And our projections for next winter it's a long time away, but generally at least an average snowfall year. And pass sales do continue on through September. People will be making decisions. They might wait and make their decisions a little later, but if there's an anticipation, I don't think people are going to stop skiing.
We're going to find out.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Anything else on the finance?
Nope, that's it.
I guess the only thing I have to add to that is like looking at the climate prediction. We just had like the worst winter in, depending how you look at it, probably about 50 years, but at least 43, 44 years. And right now we're having a 100-year warming event. When you look at what generally drives our climate here in the greater Colorado area, there's several major climate influencers that vary over the years. One of them you probably heard of is ENSO, which is often referred to as El Nino or La Nina, depending what it's in, what mode it's in. This is an area of the Pacific Ocean that gets warmer, colder, and drives moisture and heat that comes this way. But the thing about Summit County is we typically have a pretty normal winter no matter what is happening. That this was a true outlier for us. When you look at that particular climatic driver, we were in weak La Nina and we're headed towards neutral right now, but all the models are pretty confident that we'll be in a strong to very strong El Nino. So I went back and I looked at a 40-year history of the 4 strongest El Ninos and winters in the last 40 years, and all those winters were just slightly above or slightly below average, which is to say really good.
Well, so that conclusion.
So when we approach the time in the fall when everyone starts jonesing to go skiing and the pass marketing starts going up, there's going to be a lot of those media personalities and news sites and weather sites are going to be touting like, hey, this is the kind of winter we're looking at. And what the long range climate prediction models are is it doesn't predict a bad winter for us. It predicts, there's equal chances that we could be slightly above, slightly below or normal. The summer, on the other hand, it's probably a 55% chance we're going to have a warmer summer than average. But right now we're equal chances that we would have above or normal or below precipitation. It's just when does that monsoon get here?
Right.
I figured that factors into the budget discussion because that will be driving folks from the Front Range up here for the heat relief.
Yeah.
And then I think we're looking and all chances point to a significantly better winter next winter.
I hope so.
It can't be.
Literally.
Oh, don't say that. Go find some wood. This is not wood, peeps.
There's one right now.
Yeah, particle board, there's one.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, John?
No.
Any other questions on the financials? Is there anything in manager council issues we need to talk about? In that case,
Can I ask something? I'd rather ask it in the work session. I want to admire some of the changes that have happened on the website. It's great. But there are a couple of things that haven't happened yet. One is the only budget out there is the draft from November for the public hearing on the website. The STR listing still isn't publicly available that I can
The
find
financial pages and the budget page are actually up to date. Just recently,
as of today.
yes.
I'll show you what I mean. You can show me what you mean. And then the road maintenance map that people were looking for in November, it's still not up. So actually my question, having pointed these out, are we having trouble with our website provider? Can we make those changes ourselves, or do we have to go through some web provider worker to make those changes?
We make those changes ourselves. The budget is updated and the STR list is updated. And when I receive the materials for the other page, that will be updated as well.
Okay, I was on there this morning. There's something I'm missing. Thank you. Last time I got with you and you found out that it had a password protected. Is that off?
That is all.
Okay. Glad I brought it up now.
is there any other business? In that case, the work session is adjourned and we'll reconvene at 7 o'clock council meeting. And we have dinner